She walked in expecting respect. But what she faced was something else entirely. A cold stare, a silent judgment. This was just the beginning of a fight she never saw coming. The revolving doors of Crestview Bank clicked open, revealing a pristine marble lobby bathed in sunlight. The air smelled faintly of polished wood and fresh coffee, but beneath the calm atmosphere simmered a silent tension. Amara entered with measured steps, her polished black shoes tapping softly against the glossy floor. She wore a tailored cream blazer over a pastel blouse, paired with dark slacks that spoke of professionalism. Her natural curls framed a determined face, eyes sharp and scanning the room with quiet purpose. In one hand, she gripped a sleek leather portfolio, a symbol of years of relentless effort, sleepless nights, and dreams forged in adversity. As she approached the lone desk, the chatter in the room seemed to hush. Behind the counter stood the bank manager, impeccably dressed in a dark suit, his cold gaze barely lifting to acknowledge her presence. Their eyes met briefly, his expression unreadable, a subtle but unmistakable flicker of doubt and disdain passing through his cold, calculating stare. Amara laid her documents carefully on the counter, steadying her breath. The murmurs of nearby customers swirled softly around her, whispers of curiosity, skepticism, and quiet judgment. She met the manager's gaze squarely, her voice calm but resolute. "I'm here to apply for a business loan." The manager nodded slowly, his lips pressing into a thin line, a silent challenge in his eyes. "We'll see if you qualify," he said bluntly, a cold reminder that, to him, she was just another customer. But Amara's steady gaze never faltered. This was only the beginning. Behind every success is a story of struggle. Late nights, tough choices, and relentless drive. She fought to break barriers. And she wasn't about to stop now. The bank's quiet hum faded as Amara's thoughts drifted back to a small, cramped apartment filled with the soft sounds of her children playing and the scratch of pen on paper. Years earlier, her hair pulled back into a simple ponytail, eyes tired but full of fire, Amara juggled multiple jobs, working days as a waitress, studying nights toward her degree. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory, gently urging her forward. "You're stronger than you think. Keep going." Despite setbacks, financial struggles, discrimination, exhaustion, Amara's determination never wavered. Now, standing in the pristine bank lobby, those memories fueled her resolve. She squared her shoulders and met the bank manager's cold gaze. "I have worked hard for this moment," she said firmly. "I am not just another customer. I'm an entrepreneur with a vision and a plan." The manager's eyes narrowed, challenging her unspoken claim. "Prove it," he said quietly. The whispers around them grew louder, a mixture of doubt, curiosity, and quiet anticipation. Amara's grip tightened on her portfolio. This was more than a loan application, it was a battle for respect and recognition. Sometimes, the smallest actions speak the loudest. A glance that says you don't belong. Unseen judgments shaping her fate. But she refused to be invisible. Amara placed her portfolio gently on the counter, unfolding her business plan with deliberate care. The bank manager barely looked up, his eyes flicking briefly to her documents before returning to his phone. When he did speak, his tone was clipped, dismissive. "Your credit history looks acceptable," he said, not meeting her gaze. "But there are certain protocols we must follow for your account type." As he spoke, subtle signs of bias surfaced, a slight hesitation before handling her paperwork, a sideways glance when she answered questions about her business, and a pointed emphasis on additional documentation. Nearby, a teller glanced over with a thin smile, the kind that suggested judgment masked as professionalism. Amara caught it all, but kept her calm, her voice steady as she replied. "I'm happy to provide any information you need. I just asked for fair consideration." The manager's lips twitched. Was it a smirk or a sneer? Before he turned to a colleague and whispered something with a knowing look. The subtle microaggressions piled quietly, but Amara's resolve only grew stronger. This wasn't just business, it was personal. Different faces, different treatment. The contrast is undeniable. She watches, unspoken but deeply felt. Justice feels miles away. While Amara sat waiting for the manager's decision, she observed the flow around her. A young white couple approached a nearby teller. The woman greeted them warmly, her smile genuine, her voice lilting with friendliness. The couple's transaction was swift and effortless, with laughter shared and compliments exchanged. Next, an elderly gentleman with a well-tailored suit was escorted promptly to a private desk. The staff bent over backwards to accommodate him, offering refreshments and personalized service. In stark contrast, when Amara asked a simple question about her loan, a junior teller's smile tightened, and her eyes flicked away nervously. The weight of these differences settled heavily on Amara's shoulders. Yet, she refused to let the bitterness show. She took a deep breath, steadying her resolve, knowing this was a battle far bigger than a single moment. It was about breaking a cycle. Every delay, every doubt felt like a challenge. Inside, frustration simmers; outside, calm persists. She's fighting for more than just approval. Her dignity is the line she won't cross. Minutes stretched like hours as Amara waited. The manager, surrounded by stacks of papers and ringing phones, appeared indifferent to her presence. He consulted files slowly, casting occasional sidelong glances filled with skepticism. Amara's fingers tapped lightly against her portfolio, a subtle sign of the frustration she refused to voice aloud. She caught herself clenching her jaw but relaxed again, reminding herself that composure was her strength. She noticed a few staff members exchanging glances, whispers low but filled with curiosity and doubt. Despite the silent judgments swirling around her, Amara sat tall, radiating quiet strength. She was here not just for a loan but to shatter the invisible barriers that tried to hold her back. Behind closed doors, whispers grow louder. Unseen judgments form a wall. But she's not alone. Support is quietly gathering. Near the corner of the bank, two young tellers exchanged uneasy whispers, glancing toward Amara's tense figure at the loan desk. "She doesn't belong here," one murmured, the words dripping with unspoken prejudice. The other hesitated, then lowered her voice, "But she's so composed." "I don't know. This feels wrong." Across the room, another staff member shifted uncomfortably, his gaze fixed on the unfolding scene but his mouth tightly sealed. Unbeknownst to the bank's leadership, small acts of empathy and quiet support were beginning to stir among some employees, setting the stage for a larger reckoning. Amara remained unaware of these whispered debates but could feel the weight of every gaze, hostile and sympathetic alike. When words aren't enough, proof becomes her strongest weapon. A quiet act that could change everything. She won't be invisible anymore. As the subtle discrimination continued, Amara reached into her purse and pulled out her smartphone. With practiced discretion, she began recording the interactions, the manager's dismissive gestures, whispered comments exchanged between staff, the sharp contrast in treatment compared to other customers. Her hand trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of what she was capturing. She whispered to herself, "This is bigger than me. This has to end." Though no one noticed, her quiet defiance was a pivotal step toward exposing the truth and demanding accountability. Behind the confidence lies years of hard work. A journey marked by sacrifice and ambition. Her qualifications speak louder than prejudice. She is more than what they assume. Amara's mind flashed back to her university days, late nights in the library, endless cups of coffee, and stacks of textbooks. Graduating with honors in business administration, she earned scholarships and accolades, proving her intelligence and drive. She remembered her professors' praise and the sacrifices her family made to support her dreams, each step fueling her determination to succeed. Now, standing in the bank lobby, those memories fortified her spirit. She wasn't here by chance. She was here by choice, and by right. Every request feels like a hurdle. Papers piled higher, intentions clearer. An uphill battle under the guise of protocol. But she refuses to back down. The manager's eyes flicked again over Amara's documents, narrowing with suspicion. "Before we proceed, we'll need additional paperwork," he said, his tone formal but edged with skepticism. Amara raised an eyebrow but remained composed. "What exactly do you need?" He shuffled papers slowly, avoiding eye contact. "Verification of income, business licenses, tax returns, the usual, but also some extra documents for accounts like yours. Nearby customers glanced over, sensing the growing tension. Amara nodded, her voice steady. I'll provide everything required. Just ensure it's fair and consistent with bank policy. The manager's smirk barely concealed his doubt, but Amara was undeterred, every form a stepping stone to her goal. Questioning the process, a quiet act of defiance. Her voice steady, but the room feels heavier. Unwillingness to justify unequal treatment. The real test is just beginning. Amara met the manager's gaze with calm resolve. Could you clarify why these additional documents are necessary for me, when others seem to have far less scrutiny? The manager's eyes flicked away briefly, a shadow of irritation crossing his face. Bank policies require thorough checks for certain accounts, he said, voice clipped. She pressed gently, is this standard for all applicants, or specific to me? He hesitated, then shrugged, it's standard procedure. But the cold glance he gave her said otherwise. Amara nodded slowly, understanding the unspoken truth, but refused to let it silence her. Bias spreads like wildfire, often unspoken. Silent exclusion, veiled in professionalism. Her endurance stretched to the limit. But her spirit remains unbroken. As the meeting progressed, other bank employees began to subtly reinforce the manager's attitude. A teller glanced nervously at Amara, then quickly averted her eyes when asked a question. A loan officer made a pointed comment about high-risk applicants within earshot. Each small slight, a sigh, a furrowed brow, a delayed response, chipped away at Amara's patience. Yet, she maintained her composure, responding politely but firmly, refusing to be diminished. Her determination radiated quietly, a beacon amid the creeping discrimination. Sometimes, strength comes from those who believe in you. A lifeline in a sea of doubt. A whispered reminder to keep fighting. She isn't alone in this battle. Amara's phone buzzed softly in her purse. She discreetly answered, hearing the familiar, comforting voice of her closest friend, Maya. How's it going? Maya asked warmly. Amara hesitated, then sighed quietly. It's harder than I thought. They're questioning everything, making it feel like I don't belong. Maya's voice grew firm and steady. You do belong. Remember why you're here. You've earned this, every step of the way. Don't let them shake you. Amara smiled faintly, drawing strength from the words. Thanks, Maya. I needed that. The call ended, but the encouragement lingered, fueling Amara's resolve to face whatever came next. The difference is stark. Warm smiles for some, cold shoulders for others. She sees the unfairness with painful clarity, but remains steadfast in her fight. Amara glanced around the lobby, watching other customers being served. A well-dressed white businessman was greeted with enthusiastic handshakes and swift assistance. Nearby, a young mother with a bright smile was helped quickly, staff engaging warmly. But when Amara asked a simple question about her loan, she noticed the teller's forced smile and hesitant answers. The contrast was undeniable, a silent testament to the bias woven into the everyday routine. Though the unfairness stung, Amara's determination only hardened. When subtlety fails, threats come next. Pressure mounts as the stakes grow higher. Her future hangs in the balance. But she refuses to back down. The manager leaned closer, lowering his voice but thick with menace. If you can't provide everything we require, your loan application will be denied. Amara met his gaze steadily, undeterred. I will provide what's necessary, but I expect fairness throughout this process. His eyes flickered with frustration, then cold calculation. Fairness is earned, not given. Amara's jaw tightened, the challenge clear, this was a battle she had no choice but to win. Behind every brave face is a story unseen. Memories of sacrifice fuel her resolve. She carries not just her dreams, but theirs. Giving up is never an option. As the manager's words hung in the air, Amara's mind drifted briefly to her family, her parents who worked tirelessly, her children who looked up to her. She recalled nights spent studying while her children slept, the bills she paid on time despite tight budgets, and the pride she felt when she first started her business. This isn't just for me, she thought. It's for them, for every sacrifice, every hope placed on my shoulders. Her grip on her portfolio tightened, and a quiet fire ignited in her heart. No matter the obstacles, she would not let this moment define her. When words fail, proof speaks. A quiet act of rebellion. Capturing the truth, one moment at a time. She's ready to hold them accountable. Amara discreetly pulled out her phone, fingers steady despite the tension. She began recording the manager's dismissive gestures, whispered comments exchanged with staff, and the stark difference in treatment she received compared to others. Each click of the camera was a small victory, a way to ensure her story couldn't be erased or denied. Her breath hitched momentarily, but she steadied herself, knowing this evidence could be the key to change. When prejudice turns into power plays, the threat looms larger. A quiet standoff in a crowded lobby. She stands firm against intimidation. The manager's face darkened as his patience wore thin. He pulled out his phone and dialed sharply. "Send security to the loan desk. There's a disturbance." Amara's heart pounded, but she kept her composure. Nearby customers turned, whispers growing louder as they sensed the brewing conflict. Security guards appeared swiftly, their presence adding weight to the escalating tension. But Amara met their eyes steadily, ready to face whatever came next with unwavering courage. All eyes are on her now. Silent witnesses to an unfolding injustice. The power of calm defiance. She refuses to be pushed aside. The security guards approached, their expressions professional but guarded. The gathered customers paused their own business, turning to watch the scene unfold with a mix of curiosity and concern. Amara remained seated, her posture straight, voice steady as she addressed the guards. "I am here to conduct legitimate business. I have not caused any disturbance." Whispers rippled through the crowd, some supportive, some skeptical. Her calm, poised stance drew quiet respect, even from some who had doubted her. The tension thickened as the bank manager watched, frustration evident but powerless against her dignity. Strength in silence, power in words. Standing tall when pressured. Her voice breaks through the tension. Defiance in the face of intimidation. Amara looked each security guard in the eye, her tone unwavering. "I am not causing a disturbance. I am exercising my right as a customer to apply for a loan. Please respect that." The guards exchanged glances, caught between their duty and the palpable injustice in the air. Nearby customers murmured their agreement, some nodding subtly in support. The bank manager's frustration grew, but Amara's quiet confidence remained unshaken. Her presence was a reminder, respect is demanded, not given. Just when the stakes couldn't get higher, a figure of authority steps into the storm. Eyes widen, whispers swell. The tide begins to turn. The heavy doors at the bank's entrance swung open with purpose, drawing the attention of everyone in the lobby. A tall woman in a sharp navy suit entered, the regional director, known for her strict oversight and commitment to fairness. Her gaze immediately fixed on the tense scene unfolding near the loan desk. She moved quickly, her steps confident and deliberate, cutting through the murmur of the crowd. The bank manager stiffened visibly, realizing his authority was about to be challenged. Amara's eyes met the regional director's with a flicker of hope, silently pleading for justice. The lobby fell into a hushed anticipation as the regional director prepared to intervene. A leader seeking truth. Silent screens reveal what words cannot. Her resolve meets undeniable evidence. Justice starts with seeing. The regional director stepped behind the counter and signaled a staff member to pull up security footage. The large monitor flickered to life, showing multiple angles of the loan desk interactions, the dismissive looks, the whispered conversations, and Amara's calm persistence. She then turned to Amara, who recounted the events in detail, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. The director's eyes narrowed, absorbing every word, every gesture captured on the screen. Around them, bank staff grew silent, the atmosphere thick with tension as the undeniable truth unfolded before their eyes. The regional director took a deep breath, preparing to take decisive action. Sometimes, one voice makes all the difference. Words that ignite courage. a guiding light through the darkest moments. She remembers why she must persevere. Amara's thoughts drifted back to a pivotal moment years ago. In a small community center, her mentor, Ms. Johnson, had spoken with passion and conviction. Amara, she had said, when you face walls built on prejudice, don't retreat. You have the power to break them down, not just for yourself but for those who come after you. Those words had stayed with Amara through every challenge, a beacon guiding her through doubt and discrimination. Back in the bank lobby, that memory steeled her nerves, fueling her resolve to stand tall and demand justice. The moment of reckoning. Truth laid bare, no room for denial. Authority wielded with purpose. A challenge that cannot be ignored. The regional director turned sharply to the bank manager, her voice firm and unwavering. We've reviewed the footage and heard the account. This treatment is unacceptable. The manager's face paled, his confident facade cracking as he struggled to respond. This isn't about discrimination, he stammered, avoiding eye contact. The director's gaze hardened. Evidence says otherwise. You will cooperate fully with the investigation. The room fell silent, the weight of accountability settling heavily on the manager's shoulders. Denial gives way to reality. The walls close and his truth prevails. His facade crumbles. The consequences begin. The manager swallowed hard, trying to regain control. This is a misunderstanding, he insisted, voice shaky. But the regional director was unyielding. We have clear, undeniable proof of your biased behavior. Denial won't change the facts. His gaze dropped, the weight of his actions pressing down on him. Staff exchanged uneasy glances, the atmosphere charged with silent judgment. It was clear the era of unchecked prejudice had come to an end. Whispers turned to worry. Uncertainty ripples through the ranks. A culture on the brink of change. Eyes fixed on the fallout. The regional director addressed the gathered bank staff, her voice resolute. An immediate internal investigation will commence. Everyone's cooperation is mandatory. The staff shifted nervously, the air thick with apprehension. Some glanced toward the manager, others at Amara, sensing the shifting power dynamics. For many, this was the first time they truly grasped the consequences of discriminatory actions. The seeds of transformation had been planted, but the journey was just beginning. Strength in numbers. Love and solidarity fueling the fight. A community standing behind her. Her battle is everyone's battle. Outside the gleaming bank doors, a small crowd had gathered, friends, family, and supporters united by a shared belief in justice. Signs with messages like fairness for all and end discrimination now waved gently in the breeze. Maya, Amara's closest friend, held her hand tightly, whispering words of encouragement. Her parents stood proudly, their eyes shining with pride and hope. Cameras flashed as local reporters began capturing the growing movement. Amara drew strength from their presence, knowing she was no longer fighting alone. The truth goes public. Voices rise, stories spread. Outrage fuels change. A movement ignites. News vans pulled up in front of Crestview Bank, cameras focused on Amara and her supporters. Reporters called out questions, eager to capture her story, the injustice, the fight, the courage. Social media buzzed, hashtags trended, and the community rallied behind her cause. Local leaders spoke out, condemning discrimination and calling for accountability. Amara's story became a symbol, a beacon of hope and resistance against systemic bias. The once silent lobby was now the epicenter of a growing wave demanding justice. Behind closed doors, decisions are made. A crisis forces reckoning. Reputations and futures hang in the balance. Change is no longer optional. In a sleek, glass-walled boardroom high above the city, Crestview Bank's board of directors convened urgently. The chairman's face was grave as he reviewed footage and news coverage flooding in. Voices debated swiftly, damage control, public relations, legal ramifications. Some argued for swift, decisive action, others hesitated, fearful of admitting fault. But one truth was undeniable: the bank's legacy was on the line, and it demanded reform. A plan was set in motion to restore trust and confront institutional bias head-on. The consequences hit home. Shock ripples through the staff. A clear message is sent. No one is above accountability. The bank manager received the formal suspension notice, his face pale and stiff with disbelief. Staff whispered anxiously in the halls, some relieved, others unsettled by the sudden shift. Meetings were held to reassure employees and reaffirm the bank's commitment to equitable treatment. Amara's quiet victory sent waves through the institution, a stark warning that discriminatory behavior would no longer be tolerated. The bank braced for deep changes, knowing this was just the beginning of a cultural transformation. An apology, but more than words. Promises made in the spotlight. The first step toward healing. A pledge to do better. A formal statement was released, broadcast across local news and social media. The bank publicly apologized to Amara and all affected customers, acknowledging past failures. The CEO promised new policies to prevent discrimination, mandatory training, and transparent complaint processes. Amara watched the announcement, her expression calm but reflective, knowing the road ahead would require vigilance and perseverance. Her courage had sparked change, but the fight for equality was far from over. Concrete steps for real change. Policies that hold power accountable. Training minds and hearts alike. A commitment to a fairer future. In the weeks following the scandal, Crestview Bank launched comprehensive reforms. Mandatory anti-discrimination training sessions were rolled out to all employees, emphasizing empathy and equity. New policies established clear consequences for biased behavior and streamlined reporting mechanisms for customers. Amara was invited to participate in advisory committees, lending her voice to shape meaningful change. The bank's culture began shifting, slowly, but with determination. From personal struggle to public inspiration. Her voice becomes a beacon. Stories connect, empower, and heal. A movement born from courage. Amara took to social media and local platforms to tell her story in her own words. Her videos and interviews resonated widely, sparking conversations about racial bias in financial institutions. Messages poured in from people who saw their own struggles reflected in her journey. Her story became a catalyst, inspiring others to speak up and demand fairness in their communities. Amara stood not just as a survivor, but as a leader for change. Change requires unity. Voices from all walks of life rally together. A powerful coalition for justice. Momentum grows beyond the bank's walls. Local civil rights leaders, activists, and community organizations responded to Amara's call for systemic change. They met with Crestview Bank executives to discuss lasting reforms, accountability, and community investment. Town halls and forums were held to ensure transparency and gather public input. The collaboration signaled a new chapter, where the bank and the community work hand in hand to dismantle discrimination. From adversity grows opportunity. Her bravery opens new doors. Recognition leads to empowerment. A future shaped by resilience. Following the widespread attention, Amara received offers from various organizations seeking her leadership and expertise. She began consulting on diversity and inclusion initiatives, helping businesses implement equitable practices. Invitations to speak at conferences and events poured in, her story inspiring audiences nationwide. Her courage not only transformed her life but also created pathways for others facing similar battles. One voice can ignite a revolution. Her journey is a beacon of hope. Change is possible when we stand together. The fight continues, but so does the progress. Amara stood before a crowd at a community event, her eyes shining with quiet pride and determination. She spoke of courage, resilience, and the power of speaking truth to injustice. Her story was no longer just her own, it belonged to everyone striving for fairness and respect. As applause filled the room, Amara smiled, knowing her fight had sparked a movement that would outlast her. The future was uncertain, but with voices united, change was inevitable.